Good morning and welcome back. We want to thank all of you for being here with us again and starting off 2017. We're just so excited, and there's so much going on in our gardens, and so much has gone on with the weather this week. You know, we had warm temperatures, and then we had cool temperatures, and we had rain, and we had some snow, and it's just been quite a roller coaster of weather, and that really plays a huge effect on our gardens. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to be doing in our gardens right now, but we want to thank all of you for coming back and joining us again for another year, and we want to thank all of our sponsors for this season. We couldn't do our show without our sponsors, and so we really, really appreciate them. Some of them will be visiting with us throughout the season and be on the show with us, and so we're all excited about that. There's just so many blessings that we are so thankful for, and I just want to start the show off today by just with a word of prayer with you. And so if you would all just, get into an attitude of prayer, and we're just going to thank the Lord for this season. Father, we just come before you, and we just thank you for your goodness. We thank you for another growing season that we have. We just ask for your favor over our crops, over our minds, and we just ask you to just use our hands and our feet and our tongues, Father, for your glory. We just ask you that you give us the wisdom to use our crops and everything that we grow for your glory. We thank you for your goodness, and we just thank you for all that you have done for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, thank you again for being with us, and we are all here Palm Sunday weekend. If you haven't picked up your palms yet and you forgot and you need some palms, come on over to the store today. We have some extra bud palms that you can pick up and have for your church services for tomorrow. We want to thank all the churches that did order their palms from us. And next week is Easter, and just such a crazy weekend for us next weekend. We also have a farmer's market, and Easter flowers going out, so it'll be a very, very busy day for us. If you didn't know about our farmer's market, we do a farmer's market in the wintertime. It's called the Winter Indoor Farmer's Market for Stark County. It starts the first Saturday of November, and it runs the first and third Saturday all the way through May, and they're all inside the greenhouse besides May. In May, there's no room in the greenhouse, so we do them outside. So this market will be our last one inside on the 15th of April, next Saturday, and we will be doing it inside the greenhouse. That will be the last one, like I said, and the other two in May will be outside. In May, it'll be the 6th, I believe, is the first Saturday of May, and that will be outside, and it will also be our spring open house. So there'll be a lot going on that weekend as well. So when I put that bug in your ears to make sure that you remember that spring open house, the first Saturday of May, that's when we, for 14 years now, have been doing that 10-cent tomato plant. So if you've been to our open houses in the spring before, you'll probably remember that 10-cent tomato plant. We do have a minimum. You have to buy a minimum of 4, and you can only buy one full flat, which is 48 plants, but you can take advantage of that, and that's while supplies last. Different varieties is in there, so the 10-cent tomato plant tradition still goes on, and we'll have those available on May 6th for you. So this weekend, this upcoming weekend, a week from today, will be the next farmer's market. We have some wonderful vendors, a couple new vendors from last year that we didn't have before. We have a new mushroom vendor growing mushrooms indoors right here in the North Canton area. What a blessing to have Corey with us this year. And so many other vendors that have been with us for years and years. And we just invite you to come out. It runs from 9 a.m. till noon on the first and third Saturday of each month, November through May. So we have a few more, and we're getting our year started here, but we still have a few of those markets, so we invite you to come out and take advantage of local. It's very, very important that you support your local farmers and your local craftsmen and artists, all of them that are at the farmers markets, not just at ours during the winter, but all of your local farmers markets that will be starting up in probably right around June. The other markets start, so that's why we end in May and they start in June. So it's really important that you support your local farmers at the farmers market. So We do have Easter lilies and tulips and daffodils and hyacinths and hydrangeas and azaleas for all of you that are needing some taste of spring and need some of those forced flowers. We have those for Easter and will be available today and all of next week until they run out. And hopefully they're all sold by next Saturday afternoon when we close for the weekend. And but if you are getting ready to do some things in your lawn, today it's supposed to be up into the mid to upper 50s. And so today and tomorrow after church, this is a great weekend to do some work in your lawn and in your gardens. If you haven't got your pre-emergent weed control down organically, that's corn gluten meal. And we are suggesting you get that down. Now, if you in protected areas, the ground has been warm enough that some of those weeds have already germinated. So you might have missed your window. But in most areas, you're still okay to go ahead and get that down. And that's going to stop the crabgrass from germinating, the dandelions, and different things like that. That crabgrass that we call it, our crabgrass control, your step one, if you have been using chemicals in the past, is also a great nitrogen fertilizer for your lawn. So it's going to help your lawn green up. It doesn't help it grow a lot, no phosphorus in there, but it does help green it up. So if your lawn is looking a little peaked and it needs some nice, dark green color, the corn gluten meal will work as that nitrogen fertilizer as well as a pre-emergent weed control for you. We do sell it in 25-pound bags, 50-pound bags, or by the pound if you only need a small amount. And some of you need those small amounts because you put it down in your flower beds, in your landscape beds before you do your mulching. And also several of you put it in your vegetable gardens because you come to a local independent garden center, of course, and buy your vegetable starts. You buy seedlings and you don't start things by seed. So you can go ahead and put that down in the garden right after you till, put it down, and that's going to control weed seed. You don't want to put down your corn gluten meal anywhere that you're doing any seeding because the corn gluten meal doesn't know the difference between good seed and bad seed. So you want to make sure that you're not doing any seeding for at least 6 weeks once you have your corn gluten meal down, or you want to avoid those areas that you are going to be doing seed work. That's grass seed or vegetable seeds, any of those seeds. You want to make sure that you don't put those down. Now, if you are looking to start some seeds for your vegetable gardens or for your flower gardens, there's some that you have missed that window of opportunity. So we're going to give you a few of those and then talk to you about the ones that you can still start. So if you haven't started your peppers, especially any hot pepper. Your mild peppers, if you don't mind having a crop until mid-September to late September, you could still start a few of your sweet peppers by seed. But if you want peppers in 1st of August, then you've missed that window of opportunity to start your own seed. But remember, we had started all of those in February, so we're going to have the seedlings for you ready to put into your vegetable gardens so you can take advantage of that and not have to worry about it. Any of your perennial herbs, it's too late to start those as well. You can start your other ones like your dill and your basil, your cilantro. You can still start those, but you should be starting them this weekend indoors where it's nice and warm. And you should have still a nice crop of those. If you haven't started those yet, we also have those growing, and you can purchase those in a 4-inch pot from us. One thing, we do grow basil year-round, so you can start have fresh basil anytime. You can even come to a farmer's market and we will cut it from our stock plants, and you can get like a bouquet of them to take home and have for a couple weeks and use it off of that. It's much cheaper than buying them in the grocery store, and it's really, really fresh. You watch us cut it from the plant, so there's nothing fresher than that. But you can still start a lot of your seeds. So if you haven't started your tomato seeds, again, this is the weekend to do it. You want to get your tomato seeds started. And at this time of the year when you're starting your seeds, any of those ones that take a little bit longer, like your tomatoes, you're going to want to try to keep them as warm as possible. If you have a heat mat, that's going to work great. If you don't, an old heating pad that we used to use years ago, you can set it on the lowest setting, set a bar pan, or what we call it, it's a cookie sheet with sides. You can set your trays of seeds in there. and that will keep them slightly damp on top of that heating pad, and the soil will stay warm, which that's what helps the seed germinate quickly. You do not need light unless you're just using the light for the heat source, because the seed is underneath the soil layer or underneath your vermiculite, and so you don't need light until they germinate. But as soon as they germinate, you want to get them into the most lit spot of your house. And then you also want to keep them away from that 80-degree, 85-degree heat, and that will keep them growing slowly, and their stem will get stronger. If you keep the heat to them and they're not getting enough light, that's when your seedlings will stretch, and a lot of times you'll have some damping off and you'll lose some of your plants. So you want to make sure that you start them in the dark, in the heat, and then move them to the greatest amount of light that you can get. You can also still start marigold flowers, a lot of your annuals, even impatiens. But petunias, it's too late for your petunias. So if you like to start petunias from seed, you're going to need to wait till next year to start those, because they need to be started a little bit earlier, unless you don't care if you have them early into the season. So it's probably going to be best for you to get most of those flowers at your independent garden center and plant them as a seedling in your pots or in the ground. Wave petunias is always a nice one because they cover such a large area. Those ones were started actually in the first part of February. That's when we were starting peppers, we were starting petunias at the same time. So those are the things that you're going to want to wait on. But remember, there are seeds that you can start outside even today, and not, the ones that you have to keep warm inside. But you can start outside right now. Your peas, your onions are fine. And we do have the onion sets for you if you want to start those. Onion seed is a little bit late to start those because it takes quite a while for them to germinate and to get started. But the onion sets will grow much more quickly for you. And the temperatures that we should be having now is warm enough for that. So you can go ahead and get those started. Like I said, peas, the onions, your lettuces. You can also put out any of your other cold crops, such as broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi. Even your cabbage, if you want to get an early start on cabbage. You can put all of those out now. Your beets can go out now. Your carrots can go out now. And a lot of people are planting their potatoes now. Remember, when your potatoes come up, they can get nipped by the frost, the green. But as they grow and they pop through the earth, you should be hilling them and covering it back up anyhow. That's why you can start your potatoes early. Now, not your sweet potatoes, because you don't hill your sweet potatoes. But we're talking about your regular white potatoes. You hill them, so you should be fine to go ahead and get those started right now and not have any issues with that, getting that in. Now, a lot of you probably don't have your gardens tilled yet, but if you can get in, it's not too wet, you can go ahead and get your gardens prepped. Or if you're a no-till person, you can just go out and turn over the soil a little bit and go ahead and get your seeds planted. Now, the other thing that this is the perfect time of the year for is doing your transplanting. And so if you do need to transplant any of your perennials, this is always a good time. If you didn't get it done in the fall, which is the most ideal time, this is the time to do it. A nice weekend, first part of April is always a good time to get that transplanting done. So if you need to transplant your hostas, they've all have merged now, so you can see where they're at, your daylilies, those type of things. There's a few things that you do not want to transplant right now, and that is your bulbs. So if you had daffodils or tulips, this isn't the time that you want to do that. You're going to damage their blooming. Probably your daffodils are already blooming. Your crocuses are probably finished blooming, so you could go ahead and do your crocuses. But any of your other bulbs that are blooming very soon, you probably don't want to do it, or you will sacrifice the flower for this year, and you aren't going to want to do that. Now, we've had a lot of questions about transplanting shrubbery, and is this the time to do that? I like to transplant shrubbery in the fall best because the plant is going dormant and it doesn't shock it as much. But after some wet weather, first part of April is still an okay time to transplant shrubbery, especially if they've only been in the ground a year or so. You don't have a huge root system established, and you should probably be okay to do that. If a shrub has been in the ground 3 to 5 years, though, you want to make sure that if you're doing your transplanting in the spring, that you get an enormous ball of soil around that root system so it doesn't disturb it too much. And it's going to be, still a little bit touchy because they are really starting to flow. We've had some warm temperatures. This was a mild winter. So things are starting to grow already. And sometimes it can stunt them a bit. So you want to make sure that you get that a large amount of soil with it if you're doing any transplanting on anything that's probably even 2 years or older. You want to make sure that you get that. Now, if you have a piece of equipment, like a backhoe, that's going to be great. You can take a big scoop and get a lot of soil with it, and you should be, just fine with that. The other thing is trimming. And a lot of people during spring break, we had some questions in the last couple of weeks, can I trim this? Can I trim that? What you want to do is, a good rule of thumb is to think about when the flower on the shrub blooms. So if it was a rhododendron, an azalea, a lilac, forsythia, which are blooming right now, they're in full bloom in most areas. Those are the things that you do not want to trim in the springtime because you will trim off all of your flower bud. Now, if it is a Rosa Sharon that's going to be blooming late into the summer, you're okay to go ahead and trim them at this time of the year. But any of those that are going to be blooming from now until even early June or mid-June. If you trim now, you will be sacrificing the bloom for this year. Also with your flowering trees. Several people were asking about their weeping snow fountain cherries and their crabapple trees, different things like that. Again, it's not going to kill the tree for you to trim it at this time, but you are going to be sacrificing bloom. And this past week, I noticed several trees in full bloom. So, just suck it up and wait a couple more days, enjoy those beautiful blooms, and sit back and say, you know what, I'll trim the week after Easter, and then I won't be sacrificing these beautiful blooms that God gave us, and just enjoy them because they are beautiful, and you might as well enjoy them and then trim a little bit later. Fall, again, is the most ideal time to trim your flowering trees, or within 6 weeks after they're done blooming. And I always say that with any flowering plant, shrub or tree, within 6 weeks after they're done blooming is really a very ideal time to trim them. And that is with the exception of fruit-bearing trees and shrubs. So once your trees are bloom, your apple trees or your pear trees or your cherry or your peach or your nectarine trees are blooming, that's not the most ideal time to trim them. So any fruit-bearing tree, that's not the case. But any of your ornamental flowering trees and shrubs, that's going to be a nice thing to follow within 6 to 8 weeks after they're done blooming is to get them trimmed. Now, hopefully you trimmed your fruit trees over the winter time. And if you didn't, you should wait. Wait till after your harvest this year, unless you have a dead branch or a dead limb. You can go ahead and trim those things off, but you really don't want to trim it until late in the fall or into the winter. On a nice day during the winter is a great time. Before the sap is flowing in the tree, that's when you would want to trim them. And if you can get that done in the wintertime, it's going to be that much better for you and for your harvest. Now remember, so many of our fruit trees are flowering right now. And I noticed that the peach tree that we have at the garden center, and it gets a little bit more heat than a tree will be out in an orchard because it's not too far from a greenhouse. And it was in full bloom, so we covered it last night. We wanted to be sure that we were safe and we didn't want to lose our peaches. But remember, if your fruit trees are in full bloom and they are calling for a heavy frost or a freeze, you really want to make sure that you cover your fruit trees so that you don't sacrifice any of your fruit. And that's going to be the same way if your raspberry bushes are in full bloom, your blueberry bushes, anytime that you have a fruit-bearing plant in full bloom, if they are calling for a hard frost, it's going to be a good idea to cover them and be safe. It's better to be safe than sorry. And I know it was a pain covering our peach tree. There were two of us on a ladder, and we're, throwing the frost cloth over top, and the wind was blowing, and it was, we're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're doing this. But really, when we harvest those peaches in the summertime, it's definitely worth the 20, 30 minutes of hassle that we went through to get that tree covered up. And so you'll find that that is the case also. And if you are looking for new fruit trees and new fruit-bearing shrubbery, we do have all of those in as well. We have a great line of, not all of our fruit trees are in, but all of our shrubbery, our fruit-bearing shrubs are in. But this is a great time of the year to go ahead and get your fruit trees in. And your raspberries, your blueberries, and get them settled in the ground. You're not going to have huge harvests your first year on your trees or your shrubs, but you are going to get them established, and they will have a nice root system before it gets cold again in the winter. And so that's why spring is the most ideal time to do it. Remember that not only humans love the fruit that you're getting off of your fruit-bearing trees and shrubs, but also a lot of animals do too. So if you have deer issues or squirrel issues, you want to make sure that you're taking the precautions not to let them eat all of your fruit or damage your trees, so that you don't have those, that you're not able to have a nice harvest anyhow. So you want to make sure that you have that. We do have a couple other products in that's new this year. We have a new organic sugar-free cacao candy in, and it is organic raw cacao, which is what chocolate's made from, and it is sweetened with organic raw honey. So if you're one of those folks like me that gave up sugar for Lent, this is something that you can still have a treat and has no sugar in it. Also, cacao is very high in antioxidants. It's great stuff. The product is called Good Stuff Cacao. And we will be sampling it next week at the farmer's market as well. So if you want to try it without buying a box, you can come over to the farmer's market next Saturday and sample it. Janet will be there giving out samples next week, and that will be a wonderful, wonderful treat for many, many of us. So we also have some great sales going on at the Garden Center right now. We have fertilizer on sale, 50% off, and others at 35% off. So and it's not just for one specific fertilizer; it's one brand, but we have it for your bulbs and for blooming, and for your acidic-loving plants, for your roses, an all-purpose fertilizer, some starter fertilizer is in all of the sale pricing. So stop out if you're going to need fertilizer for this spring. These are some great deals to take advantage of so that you have it and you'll be able to feed your plants, not just your vegetable plants, but also remember spring is a great time to fertilize all your trees and shrubs. Spring and fall, when everything's going on. In the wintertime, or the plant is dormant, so when you feed in the fall, all of that food and all those nutrients go to establishing a very strong root system. And in the spring, it helps the fertilizer helps the plant, grow beautiful leaves and beautiful flowers. So this is a great time to do it. When you're out there doing your spring cleanup, cleaning out the beds, then it's a perfect time to go ahead and get your fertilizer down at that time as well. So just want to make sure that you, take advantage of the sales right when you're needing those fertilizers. It's a great time to do that. Well, we are about to the end of our first show again, and we want to thank you all again for tuning in and listening and getting all of your gardening tips. Remember, if you have questions, you can always call us at the store at 5828 Columbus Road, or you can give us an actual telephone call at 330-455-5997, or you can email me at cindypetitti@gmail.com. That's CINDYPETITTI@gmail.com. So we love to answer your questions. If you have a leaf or a limb or something that you're not sure about and you can't bring it into the store, you can always take a photo and email it to me, or we would love to see you at the store. Come on in if you've never been over, see what we're all about. We are Stark County's only 100% organic greenhouse, and we would love you to come over and see what an organic greenhouse is like. Visit the animals on the farm. We have the farm right there. at the greenhouse. The kids can gather eggs, and you can help feed a calf, or you can feed the goats. We have all the animals accessible to you at every farmer's market, and we just love you to come out and just take advantage of all the blessings that God has given us. We want to thank all of you for being with us again. Please join us next Saturday right here on 95.9 The Light at 8 a.m. Our store hours are 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturday, so they're at the store working right now. And Monday through Friday, this week will still be our 8 to 5, but after Easter we will be open 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, and after Easter we will also be open on Sundays from 11 to 3. But until Easter, I get Sundays just to do the watering and have the day off. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and you have a blessed week.